our valley?
No!
We want renewables?
Yes!
We want the law changed?
Yes!
That in Australia, we're uniquely placed to consider carefully the issue of coal seam gas. We've got a country which is essentially, as everyone says, and I don't want to diminish the beauty and the wonder of the desert, but essentially what is it, 95% desert and 5% this little green strip that runs around the outside. Of all people in the world, living in a desert continent, we understand the value of water. Of all people in the world, we understand the value in this thin strip of arable farming land, the value of farming land. And of all people in the world, we understand the value of getting together as a community. What sort of a country would then turn around and despise itself so much that they actually grab one of the most pristine and beautiful areas in the whole world, and people come flocking here year after year after year because of its beauty and its wonder? What sort of a country would despise itself so much that they would turn that beauty, that World Heritage country, into an industrial landscape?
Recently, you may have seen the reports that the fracking in the north of England has been stopped because there have been 50 earthquakes associated with the fracking project. Now, that mightn't be scientific research, but there's bloody good evidence that the earthquakes result from the fracking. But imagine that vast network of unstable coal seams, because they've been essentially fractured, leaching toxicity stuff into our environment for years and years and years. How will they ever remediate it if it goes wrong?
What we need to do to make this really happen is to work on the connections. So there's unity, there's diversity, and there's connectivity. If each of us sees ourselves as a leader in just one little action, think of one little thing you can do as an individual, something you can lead. We're all leaders in this. I think we can stop this. I think we've got this incredible diversity, we've got the unity, we've got the connectivity, and we've got the distributed leadership. We can make this work, and we will.
The coal seam companies are going to try and tell us that they've done water studies and they can prove to us that they won't contaminate our water. But I know as a professional scientist, scientists can't really make statements like that. There's always some error, there's always some uncertainty in any scientific measurement. That's why protecting our water is always going to be important, and rallies like this and protests and getting the community on side, drawing the community together, is going to be a really important part of winning this fight. There's the problem of dealing with the water. We live in a very high rainfall area, and again, one of those factors of scientific uncertainty is they will never ever design a holding pond that will deal with the kind of rainfall events we can get here on the north coast. So at some point those ponds will fail. Will it be this year? Will it be next year? Will it be in 50 years? It's irrelevant, you know. They're not going to design them to cope with 600 mil of rainfall in 24 hours. And that's entirely possible for the North Coast.
I am not separate from water. All the companies that are doing this mining think that they are separate from water. How dumb! How thick!
We're here now because we speak for our environment. It's not just the trees anymore, it's our water. So if we can all think of ourselves, each and every one of us, as the Lorax, we're speaking for our community, we're speaking for our environment, because it can't speak for itself. And as Mother Teresa said, you know, if you call me out to ask for something positive, I'll be there. And this is a positive thing. Think about what you do want, not what you don't want. We do want clean water, we do want sustainable resources, we do want green technology, and we do want a healthy community.
Everyone knows what ill means, what it is, and everyone knows what legal means. And if it makes people ill, it's illegal. I mean, it's just so straight.
A lot of people have got bits of solar, but everyone's got maybe a power bill or a gas bill. Look at it. Who are you paying money to? Review that. Think about taking up some of the renewable option. Cost more, whatever you can afford, because the demand has to be there before they'll make them more than the 20% that they're supposed to get to by 2015 or whenever it is. they'll make them build up the renewables. Secondly, Red Energy is the only one currently that has no connections with CSG. So look at that one as an alternative. Research it yourself, don't take my word for it, but just look at your bills and pay a bit more if you can. It's worth it. Yeah.
People say like 70 metre by 70 metre pad. And it's only a 70 metre by 70 metre pad is 1.5 times the length of an Olympic swimming pool. And that's square, and that could be within 200 metres of your house. And if you think about a network of 1,000 wells, we have an industrial landscape over what is essentially a World Heritage Area.
What I see happening is that people might say, well, it's only 70 metres by 70 metres and it's only 750 metres apart. But by the time you join all the dots, you cannot work a farm, you cannot work land properly if you've got lots of little bits of dots all over the place.
Now they'll claim, you know, and I've seen Magasco claim it in the Echo, that there's no evidence of contamination of the water supply in Australia due to coal seam gas. Now there's plenty of anecdotal evidence, so to me it's not a real scientific argument to claim that there is no evidence when you haven't looked. It's simply spin, it is not science.
Despite everything that climate activists, I'd have to mention climate, are doing around the world, including anti-coal seam gas people like ourselves, carbon emissions are still increasing, and so that just raises the stakes as far as I'm concerned, that governments and corporations are not going to change in a hurry unless we make them. And Bulgaria shows it can be done. So.
The reality is the mining boom is actually destroying the rest of the Australian economy. We're losing farm jobs, we're losing agricultural exports, and we're losing our manufacturing base, all because of the mining boom. Now the mining boom is based on non-renewable resources, so it's only going to have a fairly short time frame.
We're living in a world where there's a resource collapse. It's not something, you know, like 30 years ago we used to worry about it. 30 years ago we used to think, oh my God, what happens with the oil? We had the oil fright. We're there now. We've actually got the resource pressure now. We've got the resource crisis now. That's why they're going for the coal seam gas, because they can't get natural gas anymore. The petrol's running out. All that's left is the things that are actually harder to get at. And instead of actually respecting the fact that there's more than one voice here about coal seam gas and industry and money, and that actually the fact that people need to live in this country as well, that's all been forgotten. And so that's instead of the mining being done way out, you know, in the country, where out in the desert, which of course is still a problem and has always been a problem, it's coming closer. It's coming closer to everybody's land. And so they come into this land here, which is cattle country, is farming country, is tree change country, is ecological and wilderness country, and they'll destroy that. But I wonder whether people in the cities understand it doesn't end here. As the resources run out, they'll be going for even more difficult. They'll be getting closer and closer into the cities. That won't stop. If they don't cherish people's communities here, they're not going to cherish people's communities close to the city. We'll have this mining industry right up in our faces, all up and down on this green strip. What sort of a country would do that? Not the country that I think that we all believe in, and I think that most Australians, in fact people around the world, would believe in. So you've got the one thing, right? You've got people's lives, you've got the farming community that's under threat, but really it hinges on this issue of fracking. And the science is out because it's a damn mystery, it's too complicated. And as David and other scientists will be able to tell you, that science is fantastic when it's able to be controlled. The more complex the environment gets which you're trying to do science, the more complicated and the more unpredictable things become. Does that make sense? Yep. So when you can control something in a lab and you've got absolute control over the variables, that's science is at its best then. When you move into a complex social world and the complex world of under the ground in artesian wells and the water system, that becomes almost impossible to predict. But I reckon the analogy is like this. Taking on a rural analogy, it's like having a sheet of corrugated tin laying in the middle of a paddock on a hot summer's day. And someone says to you, we don't know that there's a poisonous snake underneath that corrugated tin. There could be, and there might not be. What I want you to do is put your hand under the tin and see if there is one. Now, and what's worse, with this particular snake, it's not just you that would die, it's actually you, your kids, your partners, your local community, everybody in the nation would all suffer. Well, who here would put their hand under the tin? No way. You'd have to have a really good reason to put your hand under the tin, wouldn't you? And at the moment, the reason is $500 billion. The problem is they want to put all our hands under the tin too, and we're not getting any of the five. And we exchange our lives for somebody coming along and putting their hand under the tin. And I think that is absolutely insane. And if it wasn't for the money that's driving it, that the money is actually making people insane.
I would never put my hand under that sheet of tin. No way on this planet, and I don't think anyone else would either. But I tell you what, I'd take my shoes off and I'd go and play with this little girl over there and walk through that puddle, because I know at the moment that puddle of water is safe. We don't know what this is all about. We're all concerned. The residents, the people around this region are very, very concerned about the lifestyle. Just take a moment, look around at this valley, how green it is. Just swing your heads around. Don't look at me, look at the valley where we are. This place is sacred. Stay in touch with this cause, because this cause is a very definite cause and it's happening, and it is time to panic. Don't think this is going to go away. You must begin to panic about this, because it's happening around the hills, right in this location.
And what you've got to do is put a bit of fear into the bloody politicians, that no matter whether it's Labor, Liberal, Greens or what it is, you put fear in it that the people are not going to cop it.
And that's another point. Although the mining itself is a state government issue, it's the federal government that's responsible for export contracts. So it's just as important to hit the feds up as it is the state government.
At the end of the day, when the time comes, if the mining companies do enter our valley and we haven't stopped them, they have the rights basically to force us into allowing them onto our property. So there is reason to be worried, there is reason to be afraid. That's why we do need to stop these people from coming on. That's why we do need to stop these laws from taking effect, change the laws and give us back our rights. Give us rights we never had in the first place.
Yes.
Yes. Unity is the key to winning this battle. Down in Victoria, there was a group there, I don't know very much about them, but I do know that they managed, through unity, to scare away the gas companies, because it was going to cost the gas companies too much to take each one of those to the Land and Environment Court.
I am not separate from water! I am not separate from water!
We had nearly 200 people here today. For a small community, having 200 people show up at an event is just fantastic. We did a mock blockade, so we just demonstrated what people do when they bunch together and block a gate to stop the drill rigs from coming in. And people were prepared to blockade. It looks like we've got a lot of people who are prepared to support in any way, shape or form, from cake baking to dropping off a load of ice to locking arms and blocking the access to a mining company. So we're here to sort of let the mining companies know that Northern Rivers is not for sale. You're not getting gas from us.
This is Communities Against Coal Gas. Yes. Against methane madness. Yes. Against coal craziness. Yes. We'll fight to the bloody end. Yes.